the TONEX pedal or the TONEX One. Which of these two pedals is right for you? Both of these pedals are amazing and both can largely do the same thing, but there are going to be a few key nuances that I think could make or break your buying decision. In this video, I will break down the key differences between these two pedals so you feel like you have all the information you need to make an informed buying decision. Let's start by talking about how these two pedals are similar, because I think for most people, either of these pedals will ultimately accomplish what you want. I think one of the most important similarities is that both of these pedals are going to give you access to spectacular amp tones and captures, whether it be from the ToneNet or from IK Multimedia. This means whether you spend $180 on the TONEX One or $400 for the TONEX pedal, you are going to get access to some of the best sounding amp tones that I have ever heard out of a really small enclosure. One key difference that's worth calling out though is the TONEX pedal comes with a subscription to TONEX Max, which gives you access to 400 plus tone captures, where the TONEX One only comes with the TONEX SE, which has around 20 amp captures on it. Of course, you can always purchase aftermarket effects or buy additional amps and captures from IK Multimedia, but it's just something to consider when factoring in the price. Now, back to some of those similarities, both of these pedals will give you the ability to tweak your amp models on the actual unit itself. So with the TONEX One, you have access to a bass, treble, and mid knob, as well as an alternative menu to access your noise gate, compression, and reverb. The TONEX pedal, however, is going to have a lot more foot switches. It's also going to have more ability to deep dive into menus and adjust between different parameters more easily than the TONEX One. And in my opinion, the TONEX One gives you all of the essentials that you would actually need for a simple home recording solution or a practice rig or a flight rig. And actually, it's jam-packed with another feature that I'll talk about in a little bit. Now, both of these pedals will have access to an onboard tuner, which was made available on the TONEX pedal via a firmware update. One other feature that I use all of the time is that both of these units give you the ability to plug in headphones. With the TONEX One, you can just plug in a 1/4 inch to 3.5 millimeter adapter and plug that into the output to be able to listen via headphones, or the TONEX pedal has a dedicated headphones output. One other spectacular thing about both of these units is they can both be used as an audio interface. So with the TONEX One, you have the ability to plug in via the USB-C port at the bottom, or with the TONEX pedal, you have access to plug in via USB-A, which is just a little more outdated, and I know most people enjoy having USB-C cables. You can also use the USB-C cable at the bottom to power this pedal as well when you're recording. Pretty cool. Lastly, the TONEX One and the TONEX pedal have the ability to send left and right outputs. So whether it be you're using a TRS Y-split cable for the TONEX One, or you are using the built-in left and right outputs for the TONEX pedal, you can send that signal out into a stereo effect. What that doesn't mean is that you can send stereo amps with either of these units. If you want to use stereo amps, in this case, I would actually recommend purchasing 2 of the TONEX Ones, because you can get 2 of these and then choose to send stereo amps for under $400. Pretty insane, actually. Now, there are going to be some more minute similarities between these two pedals, but I feel like I hit on the important ones. So now let's talk about some of the differences of these two units. If you're finding this video helpful, be sure and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know what content people enjoy, and that way I can make more of it in the future. Now, for the differences between these two pedals, I think it ultimately boils down to the user experience that you want from each unit. And in terms of actually interacting with these two different units, the TONEX pedal is going to allow you to more easily go up and down different banks. You can store up to 150 different tone models. And of course, you've got 3 foot switches to be able to quickly and easily toggle between tone models. Versus the TONEX One has the ability to store up to 20 tone models, and you have the ability to switch between 3 playable slots. Similarly, the TONEX pedal allows you to enter an interactive mode or a live mode, which allows you to choose whether or not you want to edit and use the desktop software or engage with the hardware and edit while playing live. Versus the TONEX One has the ability to either use a dual mode, which allows you to switch between 2 different amp presets, or you can also enter a stomp mode, which allows you to use it more like a traditional stomp box, where you equip it with a overdrive, fuzz, or distortion style pedal, and then the pedal simply acts by engaging or disengaging that effect. And in terms of that user experience that I mentioned earlier, the TONEX One is going to be more heavily reliant on you plugging it into a computer to be able to tweak and dial things in the way you want, versus the TONEX pedal, which is going to give you a lot more control on the unit itself. And one other way that the TONEX One is going to be similar to a traditional stomp box is it has an always save mode where everything that you adjust will save in real time. Whereas with the TONEX pedal, you're going to be able to go in and tweak an individual tone model, make adjustments, add EQ to it, and you can either choose to save that, or if you go to a different bank, it will wipe all of those previously edited settings. One other huge difference between these two units is the TONEX One is going to be only around $180, which is insane, and there's nothing else like this in the market right now. Whereas the TONEX pedal is around $400, but the pro there is you can typically find these used for anywhere between $200 to $300. The more obvious differences are going to come down to the external hardware. With the TONEX pedal, you're going to have more foot switches, you're going to have access to more knobs, you're going to have a dedicated left and right output, as well as a headphone jack, MIDI controller, etc. And for me personally, I love having MIDI on the TONEX pedal because I'm actually sending MIDI signals from my HX Stomp to the TONEX to help switch amps as I switch different presets. I also think a huge benefit with the TONEX One is going to be how easy it is to take captures of popular overdrives and distortion pedals and put it in the TONEX One. And of course you can do this with the TONEX pedal, but for me personally, I have my TONEX pedal, and then before it, I have my TONEX One, and it's acting as a traditional overdrive or stomp pedal, and I can access spectacular sounding captures, whether it be a kilt or a clon or an 808 style overdrive, and I can switch between those and save up to 20 different overdrives and distortion pedals within the TONEX One. So which one should you actually buy, and which one is right for you? So which of these two units should you buy? That is always a tough question to answer, and of course it's subjective, but for me personally, I'm gonna keep both. I think the TONEX pedal is a fantastic option as my amp device, whereas I want to use the TONEX One as my stomp box or to upload overdrives and distortion pedals and have a lot of different flexibility before my TONEX pedal. I think for most people, the difference will ultimately come down to the experience that you want. The TONEX pedal, in my opinion, is going to be more designed for somebody that wants an amp in a box solution, wants to use it on their pedal board, and wants the most out of the unit, whether it be to be able to deep dive into menus or to tweak via MIDI and send different signals. Whereas the TONEX One is going to offer a much more simplified experience and is also great to be used as an amp in a box solution, especially for somebody that typically only swaps between 1 or 2 different amps. And one benefit for the TONEX One is, especially if you're trying to save space on your pedal board, it makes it a really attractive option where you could fit 2, almost 3 of these on a pedal board for the same size as the TONEX pedal. And back to the user experience, I think the TONEX One offers a really simplified experience where you're not tempted to deep dive into menus because you just simply don't have access to them. In this case, once you put your favorite captures in there, you can just plug and play. Whereas with the TONEX pedal, of course, you're going to be able to deep dive a little bit more, and you're even going to be able to choose maybe parameters like what you want your specific ratio, attack, or release to be for your compression, or be able to even choose which reverb you want and adjust more in depth from there. And like I said at the start of this video, both of these units are amazing and both give you spectacular amp tones, but it's ultimately going to come down to a few of those key differences that I talked about earlier. So let me know in the comments which you decided to purchase, and watch this video on the initial release of the TONEX One.